All right. Well, you all are in for a treat today. We have Bridget Venus Grimes who's joining us, and she is the founder of WealthChoice, amongst a number of other different roles, including she's on the CFP board. And well, I'll let her get into all of it. But what is going to be really fun for us to be able to dive into today is how she has actually brought her daughter into the firm and what that process has been like to be able to train her and to really bring her into the fold. So, Bridget, I'm going to hand it over to you to share a little bit more about your background, and then we'll get into the details of bringing on the next gen into your firm.
Sure. And Lauren, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So just a little bit about me. I launched my fee only firm in almost 8 years ago in
Mm,
September
goodness.
2016. Um, and really just in response to a whole bunch of issues that I'm sure we can get into in a few minutes. So Run Wealth Choice, our clients are what I call breadwinner women. So they're
Hmm.
ironing women who have a ton of stuff on their plates,
Yep.
and their career, their income is really what we need to leverage to drive everything they want to do in life. So those
Hmm.
are my people. I have basically it's a virtual practice. I'm sitting here in an office in Coronado, California, where I do have a physical office, but nobody comes, which is the way I
Yeah.
do it. My clients are all over the country. I have not met most of them in person and probably never will. Totally
Oh my
cool.
goodness.
Yeah, we were
That's
so
a unique component. Yes. Okay.
we were ready for COVID because we were already we were
Yeah, you
already
were already there.
up. So that is how we run. We're super deep financial planning. I also run a co-founded
Hmm.
a firm called Equita Financial Network, which
Hmm.
provides the platform for my firm, and we'll talk more about that too. But we also make it available to other fee-only women-led firms around the country. So I started Wealth Choice really because of my experience in financial planning. And I'll tell you, it was either launch a firm or leave the industry. That's kind of where I
Oh,
was.
wow.
Yeah, can be a very difficult industry for women. So I had started
Hmm.
in 1986
Hmm.
trading at a hedge fund in Manhattan. And so my entree to the financial industry was really I was, on the buy side trading
Hmm.
um, for many years, and actually wound up absolutely hating it. It's trading, it's not investing. To me, it's like
Yeah.
gambling. Didn't resonate with me, but it was kind of
Right.
an interesting way to get into the industry. Anyway, left the industry and came back and when I got divorced, and I really wanted to serve women who looked just like me.
Hmm.
So got in the industry, started at a wirehouse, which
Yep.
is a super easy way to do this, build your own practice. Definitely wasn't the model that I wanted for myself and my clients.
Hmm.
And so I transitioned to a fee only RIA in San Diego, where I was for a number of years, and
Oh,
I was serving women like me, a lot of women attorneys, but
yeah.
really wound up being very frustrated. I was told I was too ambitious.
Hmm.
I had asked, our owner, hey, what's it going to take to get it to management?
Right.
And was pretty much shut down, like, hey, it's not an option. And that was pretty disappointing because I work really hard. And I figured the harder I worked, it would all work out. And that's not how it works.
Hmm.
So also found out I was paid 50% of my male peers, and that is a truth. So, just a bunch of frustrations. And I really, once I looked for another role out there, I realized I pretty much wasn't going to find anything different with the lateral move. And one of my
Hmm.
mentors, JD Bruce, awesome guy who was
Hmm.
running Abacus at the time, said, Bridget, you're only going to be happy if you launch your own company. And
Hmm.
so hence comes Wealth Choice.
That was 8 years ago.
And that was 8 years ago. Yeah. And it's been an amazing ride.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so tell me more about how you got that firm going, where you are, and then I'd love to hear about this component of bringing your daughter aboard to the firm.
Sure. So when I had left that RIA, it was a broker protocol firm, which means you're allowed to take certain information with you, which is great.
Mhm.
But I was also only allowed to take the clients that I had brought with me from my wirehouse. For some bizarre reason, I had put that in my contract, even though I never planned on ever leaving. So
Right,
that
right.
was actually a good thing. And I would say to
Ended up
anyone,
working out. Yeah.
do that just because you don't know the future. But when I left, I had zero revenue, and I had a very big mortgage and two children in college.
Oh
And
my
my husband
goodness.
said this had better work out. So no pressure.
Yeah.
Good news is my father runs a company. He's an entrepreneur, and he had said to me, "Okay, you need a business plan. You need to figure out
Yep.
how many clients do I need to get in when, like how much
Right.
revenue do I need to have when." So
Hmm.
I was just super heavy in, clients found me,
Right.
whole really good strategy my attorney helped me with. And then he just did a ton of business development. Like
Mm.
I love to write and
Right.
I love to speak.
Right.
So I was really focused on that. And then a year and a half later, I wrote a book. So I
Hmm.
thought that would super help with credibility, and that was really helpful. But really, just like boots on the ground, I am
Yep.
going to bring in clients. And I had built this amazing website, and I thought it really spoke to my client base.
Yep.
And that's how we started. And it's just
Love
been
that.
really a lot of work, but really
Mhm.
rewarding.
So you really went in with clarity around who you're going to serve, and it
Absolutely.
not, dependent on a particular geography, but just really that audience. And then it sounds like you were able to leverage, sounds like centers of influence through, was an attorney you said you were working with, or what have you.
Yeah, so I think the niche is critical, and I know Kits is, speaks on this nonstop, and he's
Right.
right. So I have always had a specific niche. Like I said, when I got into this industry, it was to help
Hmm.
women like me. So breadwinner women who have a ton of things on their plate, aging
Hmm.
parents, kids, husbands, like
Yep.
partners, you name it. And so I have just continued to serve those women. And there are very specific needs and challenges that this demographic has. So
Hmm.
our firm focuses on, hey, here are these challenges, and we know the solutions. And we look like you because we are
Yep.
you.
Yep.
So yeah, the niche is really important.
So it sounds like built your processes, procedures, your messaging, and it sounds like also where you're spending your time really reaching out and talking to this demographic. Is that all fair to say?
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
assuming your book is also aligned to this audience as well.
Absolutely. In fact, the book's called Corner Office Choices, and it speaks to what I say the four derailers are for these women, financial derailers, that I've just seen over time. If they only knew to do these four things,
Yep.
would all be in better shape financially. So it's kind of like a how-to book, but it also
Yep.
was a book for my peers because I thought
Hmm.
we were doing a lousy job of guiding this group of women
Uh-huh.
because they really do have very specific challenges and needs.
That are unique. It's so true. I know you can't kind of talk to everyone, right? Or it all kind of washes out. So
Yes.
okay, so and I feel like we could go a whole deep dive on that component because now you're starting to talk my language again into the marketing world, target market and what have you. Also, Kristen Luke's another one who has a great whole process on that and really building out that audience as well. It's so critical to go deep in and know who you're talking with. Let's kind of shift a little bit to talk about the shift in your business to be able to bring on your daughter. What was the trigger for that? Why her? Were you at a place where you were looking for talent? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and then kind of where
Sure.
you are in the process.
Yeah, so this is years in the making.
Mm.
My firm has 90 million of assets under management. And
Hmm.
so I had heard years ago from some industry resource that when you got to 35 million of AUM, you're going to need to add some help.
Hmm.
35 million came and went. And I, like I said earlier, so I delegate a lot of the work in my practice, right? So I have
Yes.
an outsourced CIO, I have a trading team, I have a
Mm.
bookkeeper, you name it, I have really good people in those seats through that other company that provides this, this suite of business resources. But I never outsource the planning. I love financial planning. I love the relationship part. I
Hmm.
love doing deep dives, and I want to be here when a client's like, "Hey, I want to buy a house. What should I do?
Yes. Yeah.
Should I lease a car? Should I rent a car? Like, I want to be available to my clients for that because I feel like those financial decisions can really make a difference.
They're
And I
personal
found,
too.
pardon?
They're personal. They're big, so you need a trusted resource when you're going to make those big decisions. So,
You so do, and I want to be there for my clients. So I have 65 families I work for.
mhm.
It's like almost 100 people, and I found that I was not able to do the deep work that I love doing. I
Mhm.
was now fully at capacity.
Mhm.
Like I said, I never brought anyone on to help me with the planning part. I didn't want to give it up. And I realized that I just couldn't do the quality of work that I really was proud of. And I
Yeah.
mean, I love the
Right.
work we do, but I had moved away from like special projects for clients throughout the year. And I wanted to get back to that. So the only way to do that was, of course, to bring in help. And, I talked to my daughter she's almost 27. And so out of
Mhm.
college a few years. And I had talked to her a few years ago about, hey, you know, would you ever be interested in financial planning? Um,
Mhm.
and we talked a little bit, and we thought maybe, yeah, who knows?
Right,
Planted
right.
this, planted the seed, but she was a business major from college, and she worked in a finance role in tech. So she's
Oh,
making great
yeah,
money.
she'd already been there.
Yeah,
She had seen it.
the only thing was she was working with numbers. She's super smart, really driven, but there was no people component, right? I mean,
Mm.
it's a lot of
Right.
numbers, but no people. And she's a really great people person. So, we kept checking in on that. And then I said, hey, Marnie, is this something you're really serious about? Because if
Right.
it is, we need a plan.
Right.
And so she actually, a couple of years ago, she said, so I'm going to study for the CFP.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, great. So on her dime, on her time, and she then said, okay, I'm willing to commit to you. And we did an internship last year.
Yep.
She would sit in for the latter half of the year on client meetings, and just for me to make sure, like, is this really what you want to do? Because this is going to be a lot of work for me.
Right.
Um, Long
Oh,
story
yeah.
short, we signed a letter of intent. I'm like, this is a business deal. The
Yep.
letter of intent last year, end of year, and she started working for WealthChoice as a W-2 employee on January 1st.
Okay.
So,
Official.
yeah, so this is like a bona
Congratulations.
fide, real, real.
Yes, it's the real deal.
Yeah, and so I really want her. She's got a hybrid role, right? So, I do not plan to retire. I
Hmm.
love our industry. My business model for my firm is I do this until I can't,
Hmm.
because it's very gratifying. I don't
Yep.
I don't have a vision of retirement where I play golf or pickleball. My vision of retirement is I work part time
Hmm.
and I can travel.
Yeah.
But I see my father, who is still running a business at 86, who
Hmm.
is
It's his
very
passion.
viable. Yeah, the guy is amazing, but he's also cognitively aware and
Yep.
he feels fulfilled.
Yes.
That I think is critical, and
Hmm.
that's my vision for myself. But that said, I definitely need somebody who's like a clone of me. So
Right.
Marnie's job, my daughter, Marnie Bonner, her job is really to become incredibly good at financial planning, right? An expert
Hmm.
in that space, but also a business owner,
Mm.
somebody who will know how to run this company. Because
Hmm.
we solos, we wear two hats. We
Yep.
were business owner and we take care of clients. So how do you do
Absolutely.
both well? So she's getting a crash course on everything.
Uh-huh. Can you tell me more about that crash course? Because I mean, I felt that too, right? Growing a business and then that first hire is a big one, right? You're trying to you've got a lot of stuff that's packed in your head that you have to really think about how am I going to help to transition this, fold them in, help them learn along the way. I mean, onboarding, you're in the kind of the throes of all of that. What have you done? I mean, I'm sure that's naturally happened just over the years of her seeing you and watching and learning, but what kind of systems have you put in place to help her be able to lean in and really see you in action and sort of brain dump, for lack of better words,
Mhm.
of all the things, right?
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot there. So we started with a really tight onboarding plan.
mm,
I reached out to some great resources. Dimensional Funds has this amazing practice management arm, and we're a
hmm.
DFA shop. So you know what, they spent a lot of time with me, and they
That's
walked
great.
through. Here's how we would figure out what compensation.
Yep.
This is what onboarding should look like. This is what you should, in terms of timelines, in terms of responsibility. They were
Hmm.
fabulous. The CFP board has amazing resources, and then I
Hmm.
reached out to peers. And
Yep.
so by the time she started, we had a very tight onboarding plan from
Uh-huh.
timeline to responsibilities. And so, um, really, I feel like my gift is not managing people. And I was really stressed out about how I do not know how to manage. I do not know how to train. I just know how to do, right? Like I
Yep.
know financial planning inside and out, but I have never had to train a person.
Right, right, right.
And so I was really partially for myself to make sure that if we had this really great outline of what
Right.
accomplish. It would help me make sure we stayed on track. So we put together the onboarding, and we have really good resources behind us, right? We use Advison for portfolio performance and CRM. It is
Mhm.
fabulous, really close to the guys who launched Advison. We were early adopters, and just really, they keep enhancing that. So
Yep.
one of her goals is to master our tech, because
Mhm.
I have not had time to dig deep enough. And
Yes.
so she spends time, our workflows,
Yes.
putting them in, and everything is, how do we systematize better than I have done when you're cobbling it together between everything
Yes.
else you're doing. So really getting her to focus on, okay, here are the different resources we have access to, now master them and incorporate those in our client meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So she's done a really great job. It's so funny. So many people ask me, hey, how's it going?
Yes, yes, yes.
Friends, family, peers are like, so how is that going? Um,
Yeah.
and it's going great. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not kidding. It's beyond my expectations. Part of it might be that she drives herself really hard, and I don't think she wants to disappoint me. But
Yeah. She
but
sounds like
that's
she's a
on her.
natural, like, she's got a natural sort of entrepreneurial spirit about her. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I
Yeah,
think,
she does.
critical as a small business is you need that entrepreneurial kind of energy.
Hmm.
So, not
And
the,
who knows?
what do I
Like,
do? But providing those recommendations, doing the research, pulling it together, finding that sort of cut of person is not always an easy.
no, it's not. And I'll tell you, it's crapshoot, right? You don't
Mhm.
know, do you really know your child and their
Right,
business, their work
right,
ethic? So I had made it clear I am not a micromanager. I'm training her. We
right.
meet every single day.
Mhm.
And Monday and Friday, we have really deep dive meetings. Like Monday is, hey, well, here's what's going on this week.
Yep.
Friday is, how did that go? What could we have done better? And then daily, it's like, hey, let's just check in. Did you have questions?
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of framework, but at the same time, my expectation is she lives in Manhattan.
Oh,
I am in,
wow. And you're in
yeah,
San Diego.
I'm in
Holy
San
smokes. Yeah,
Diego.
you're coast to coast.
And so she's doing her thing. We
Yep.
have tasks that we create in our CRM, so we know what our responsibilities are, and she just does it. But you don't know when you hire a child, like, are they going to show up?
Yep. Yep.
Are they just going to take a paycheck and
Yeah.
pay?
Yep.
Um, so it's been really really rewarding. It's been really successful.
Yeah. Well, hats off to you too for taking the time and resources to be able to reach out to connections and then to be able to put together that plan. I feel like so much of if the front work is done, it makes it just all kind of go downhill from there. Assuming that you've got the right fit and everything for the role. It almost seems like you've got a great template that then you can adjust should you want to hire more folks if that's the vision or you can learn from. So
Yeah, I don't know if that's the vision, honestly, but who knows, right? Like, I never thought that I'd sit here and be talking to you about bringing my daughter on. I
yeah.
just,
As a mother-daughter team. So, I had talked with Stephen, who she owns Grow Wealthy, and she had seen her father grow up in the advisory space, and then she spun off a business. We interviewed her a few months ago, and it's all about health and well-being specifically for advisors. And so, I think one of the things that she probably like or alluded to earlier, she's seen you right in the space and what that's like, and be able to grow up with that and kind of energy that it takes to really go all in. So that training seems like it was sort of built in the ethos. So
yeah, it's funny because she does work that I was doing before, and she said, I don't know how you did this, because I
yeah,
did both role, right? Like,
yep,
I just said, so this is why, my children think all I do is work. I'm like, so yeah, that's kind of all I did was work, because
right,
there's so much to do.
right.
Um, and so now it is actually really nice to have someone who's helping me with analysis for client reviews, so that I can spend some time on business development, and marketing.
Absolutely. You put your energy towards that. Sounds like she's got an operations component to what she's taking on.
Mhm.
Are you already bringing her into client meetings as well? Is
Oh
she
yeah.
one of
Oh
things?
yeah.
Okay.
She's like up and
She's
running. So
often okay.
she's a sponge, right? So at
Mhm,
every client meeting, she's in there, she takes notes.
mhm,
She's actually just starting to contribute,
mhm,
got an agenda. Our meeting structure is really good.
mhm,
It's very repetitive. And
mhm.
so she's got, man, I think at this point, she's probably been in 30 something, maybe 40 meetings at this point, because are very heavy on meetings in the beginning of the year. But
Yeah.
and then she will follow up with the clients. This is what we heard.
Mhm.
These are action items that we've identified.
Yep.
She actually is, because she's taken the CFP coursework, and because she's interned and we spend a lot of time in financial planning together, she's helping with analysis for prep work for these
Oh,
client
wow.
reviews. So
Okay.
she's deep in the numbers and the weeds. Yeah, this is a crash course. This
Yep.
is, you will be a financial
You're
planner
jumping into the deep end.
in a couple.
And then I want to be mindful of time here, but just a few other questions for you too. So,
Yeah.
I also see, so you're in a unique situation, right? Solo firm, moving into family business. I also see multi-generational, family businesses, not just in this space, but in other industries as well. Is there anything, especially since you did so much upfront due diligence and putting together the onboarding and talking with folks, were there any common themes that you saw across the board? Was it that, onboarding was really critical? Was it that it really needed to be treated like really extra lean into that more business engagement that you kind of, there are any themes that you saw that you would like to make sure that people hear if they're entertaining bringing on their child or they're thinking about that succession and bringing them into a leadership role in their active business?
I guess it starts with, what's the vision for your firm?
Mhm.
If you're building a firm to sell it, like, I don't even know if it makes sense to bring in a child, a family member.
Right, right, right.
And really, when I made the decision, I had my firm valued a couple of years ago, and the expectation was you build it to grow and sell it,
Mhm.
and then you retire somewhere.
Mhm.
And when I changed my vision for my firm, I thought it would be terrific to have her here
Yeah.
as a successor. Now, like I said, I don't plan on leaving, and God willing, I could stay a long time. But ultimately, Marnie will probably take over this business, I would hope.
Mhm.
So I think, depending on what your vision is for the firm, I think that it could make sense to bring a child on. I think you also have to be really clear on how do you separate family from business.
Yep.
And I think that's an advantage for us working remotely, because she's got her private
Yes.
life and I have my life. But when we're on a call, even today, the end of a day, and we review, we are business.
Yep.
We don't talk about personal life. We really have limitations, very clear barriers. And
Oh,
I think it's something to think about for folks if you bring a child on. And I was advised to be really clear with what's business and what's personal by one of my peers who really helped me with Marnie's onboarding.
that's fair. And I'm sure as you proceed forward, you sort of continuously draw those lines in the sand for what that looks like, I would assume. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, any other final thoughts? I know before we originally we were sort of chatting, but I know there's a Kitsis podcast that you did where talk a little bit more about the delegation component and what have you, and some other articles we'll make sure to share in here as well. Are there any other final thoughts that you think would be helpful to share for folks that are in a position where they're looking to bring on a family member, or any tips for?
Sure. Yeah, I've had a number of people ask me, peers ask me, how did I do it? And they have children who they think could be a good fit for their firms.
Mhm.
Um, I would say I would encourage anyone to do it. I mean, obviously it depends on the child, um, and it depends on the business structure, but
Great.
um, I would absolutely encourage folks to think about that, to think about bringing on a child. I think it's a natural successor.
Mhm.
And I would be happy to talk to anybody who had any questions about it. There's a mom perspective about, bringing your daughter on, and a business perspective, and they need to align and make sense. But I'll tell you, it has been absolutely rewarding to have her on, and to see her grow, and to see her, really get up to speed and take initiative and get stuff done and do a really good job, and actually really help the business
Mhm.
get better.
Yep.
So to that end, I wrote an article. It's on Rethinking 65 that covers a
Wow.
lot of these details too. When I spoke to Kits this last fall, we really were talking about how do you scale. And a lot of this that we didn't really cover was, by bringing Marnie on, we can bring on clients. I was absolutely at
The
capacity,
capacity, yep. Even
absolutely
though you were
done.
outsourcing other components, now you've
Yeah.
really got someone that's deep into it. Yep.
Yep, for sure. And so
And
our
sounds
goal
like
is,
can get into the planning side of it or get at least their kind of feet wet with it a little bit.
yes, absolutely. So our goal is to bring on, 40 awesome clients within 5 years. And then I think we're probably going to be done.
Mhm.
We'll see. I mean, I know I probably should
Right,
not
right,
say
right.
but yeah, so there was no way I could bring any more people on and do
Yep.
really good work.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair, and it's honorable too, right? You hit a capacity and you want to be able to lean in to pour in as much as you can to your clients. So, um, oh well, no, this is great. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about your journey, especially since it's so fresh. That she's come on relatively recently, and to be able to see the success so quickly, I think is also, like I mentioned earlier, a tribute to all the effort that you had put in initially, but then also her pouring into it as well. So, thank you for sharing your story.
you're welcome, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll make sure to link to your website below and those articles we mentioned too. So thank you.
You're welcome.